Put a finger down if at the end of your 4th grade year you gave your teacher that you loved so much a gift certificate to her favorite restaurant where she proceeded to choke to death on the meal she ordered, and then when you were crying about it, your mom told you not to cry about it because she murdered her husband and had it coming. This is going to be such a long story time, and I'm going to talk as fast as I can. Okay, I'm talking about Soap Creek Elementary School and Miss Lee Lindsley, who was my 4th grade target teacher, like the special classroom we go to once a week. I loved her. I didn't think anything was wrong with her, but in hindsight, she did let us stand on our desks and scream every time we went to that class, which anyways, my mom was volunteering for something. I had to call Miss Lindsley. Miss Lindsley went out of her way to talk about how her husband had died in a drunk driving accident and how sad it was, and she went on and on about it. So at the volunteer event, my mom goes, "Oh, it's so sad her husband died." And all the other PTA moms were like, "Yeah, what do you know about that?" And my mom was like, "Oh, it was an accident." And they were like, "What kind of accident?" And they were like, "Oh, drunk driving." And they were like, They were like, "You know she was on trial for murdering her husband, right?" So my mom's a lawyer and she looked into it about it. And let me tell y'all, it's the craziest shit. I'm gonna get into it more in the next video, but the lawyers that represented JonBenet Ramsey's family, like, got famous because of my teacher. So at this point, my mom knows my teacher murdered her husband, which I'm going to get into later. But yeah, she doesn't do shit about it. Doesn't take me to the class. It's like, you know who I think would be great for just molding my daughter's impressionable brain right now? A murderer. This woman. Okay, anyways, as a class, we all get together, get a lot of money, and she eats at the restaurant that's her favorite or whatever, and she eats like a mushroom, she chokes, and then she falls and hit her head. I don't know which killed her, whether like hitting her head killed her or choking killed her, but either way, she's gone. And technically, my money helped pay for the meal that she died on. Yeah, here's her obituary, you psychopaths. OG Carol Baskin. And here's just another screenshot from her obituary that talks about her dead husband and her teaching at my school. I remember like our main teacher got us all together and like sat us down talking about how heartwarming it was that like her last meal was something we paid for. And we all like cried. It was like traumatic. Like someone said we killed her and then everyone. So Miss Lindsley's husband was a prominent pediatrician in Colorado, and he was 32 years old when he was found dead in the bedroom that he shared with Miss Lindsley to a bullet wound in the head. There was no sign of forced entry, and associates testified at the trial that he talked about finalizing divorce plans with his wife that weekend. And a quick shout out to all the JonBenet Ramsey conspiracy theorists out there, because my teacher's lawyer, Brian Morgan, later went on to represent the Ramsey family in that controversial case. And if you don't know that, you should probably look it up if you're this far invested in this. But basically, my teacher got acquitted for an unlikely intruder story, and that's exactly how the Ramsey family got off too. Basically, a lot of conspiracy theorists think that they hired Brian Morgan because of the remarkable Lee Lindsley case, because everything was stacked against. Like for what I think will be the last part of the story and find out how my teacher got away with murder.
Put a finger down if during quarantine you got really bored and you really wanted a cartilage piercing but your parents wouldn't let you get one. So you just decided to do it yourself with a safety pin, and you sterilized everything and it worked really well. And then for the first week everything went really well, but after that first week your ear got really red and swollen, and then the pain got so bad to the point where you'd wake up in the middle of the night screaming and crying every single night. But your parents refused to take you to the hospital for 3 weeks because they were scared of corona. But after those 3 weeks you were still screaming and crying and everything was just getting worse, so they had to take you. And then when you got to the hospital, the doctor told you that the infection almost spread to your brain, so they had to do immediate surgery. But the numbing shot that they used on your ear didn't work, so you felt them slice your ear open, drain all the blood out of it, and then stuff it up with cotton. And then for the next 3 weeks, you had to be on 8 antibiotics every single day, and now your ear will be deformed for the rest of your life.
Okay, so put a finger down if you and all your friends had to move out of your college house because of coronavirus, but you're the only one that lives near your college town. So like once a week or so you go to like water your plants and check in on the mail and stuff. But this time when you went, the door was wide open and you hadn't been there for 3 weeks, and your sister had gone 2 weeks ago to go pee in your house, and you asked her if she left the door closed, and she was like, yes, and I made sure I locked it. So obviously someone else had been there, and you go inside your house and you start screaming and trying to find everything, or like find if there's someone in there, and like checking out the closets. And then when you go in, everything seems normal except for one door's locked, and you never locked their door, and you called your friend whose door it was, and they said they didn't lock it before they left. So you go and and you try to unlock the door, but when you do, when you hear the unlock, it feels like someone else is like pushing up against the door, so you can't open the door. So you scream and then you call the police, but they don't take you seriously. So you have to wait outside of your house for an hour while you're pretty sure someone's in there to wait for police to come. And when they finally do, they bring like a bunch of squad cars, and then they go and they with their guns in the house, and then they like I'm running out of time, but yeah, put your finger down.
Okay, so this is part 2 for that video, I guess. But basically what happened was the cops came and they had their guns out, and they went to the house and were in there for like 25 minutes. And because they had sirens and everything, all of our neighbors were like staring at us. And finally, after the 25 minutes, they came out and said they didn't find anyone. But a lot of our windows were unlocked, so I think he just like opened one of the windows and left. And the way he got in the first place, the reason the door was open is because my roommate came over the weekend from LA without telling any of us. And she was going back and forth and packing up her car for all her stuff to move home permanently. So what I think happened was she left the door open when she was like packing in and out and totally just like didn't think about it. And then he was able to come in. And also this is something that kind of happens often in Berkeley, not often, but I've heard about it like multiple times because we have a really big homeless population. So when they know the students are gone, they like try to get into houses to sleep there. So yeah, go Bears, I guess. Also, sorry it took so long to do a part 2. I didn't think anyone would care.
Put a finger down if after you got your driver's permit, your mom wouldn't let you drive on the highway because she thought you were a really bad driver. So the first time you drove on the highway was during your highway driving test for driver's ed. And on that driving test, a woman fell asleep at the wheel and rear-ended you, and you spun out on the highway, and the police were called, and when they interviewed the woman, they found out that she fell asleep at the wheel because she just had chemotherapy, so you felt really bad for her. But when your driver instructor came back to the car, he told you that you wouldn't be able to pass the driving test if you didn't drive back to the driver's ed place. So you had to drive back even though you had whiplash and was really scared from spinning out on the highway. And as you were crying when you left the driver's ed place, the Uber that picked you up, the driver in the Uber had been the guy that was working in the cell towers to radio in your accident on the highway, and he told you that it was kind of funny that you got into an accident in the driver's ed car.
So here's a fun one. Put a finger down if whilst you're abroad in Spain, you found a Kit Kat in the fridge in your hotel room, but it wasn't listed on the minibar item list, so you just figured it was like a free gift to welcome you to the hotel, so you eat the Kit Kat. But the next day you come back to your room and there's another Kit Kat in the fridge, so you think you and your cleaner have got this like fun little relationship going on where she leaves you Kit Kat, so you proceed to eat them for 2 weeks straight, to which everyone starts telling you like, no, I don't think they're free, and you're like, no, they definitely are free. But you get scared and check with the cleaner by leaving her a note in Spanish asking, ¿Es el Kit Kat libre? With the said evidence, to which she does not reply to your note, so you have to go down to reception and ask them, and they tell you, no, the Kit Kats aren't free, and you've ended up racking up a £25 bill on Kit Kats. £25, and when you leave, they say, you're the guy who liked the Kit Kats. Whoops.
Put a finger down if you were at work and you were going to do a pretty standard fiber pull at a customer's address, and you saw in the customer's notes they requested to be contacted ahead of time due to an over-aggressive dog on the property that they didn't want coming into contact with the technicians due to risk of injury. So you go to the door to contact the customer, and you realize what they forgot to mention was that the dog in question was a full-grown German Shepherd with military history, longer and more aggressive than Colonel Jessup himself, and the fact that the parents weren't home, and that the dad was the dog's former handler and partner in the military service, and he was the only one the dog was trained to listen to, command-wise, and that the only person home to command the dog was the daughter, who opened the door wide up to me, and as soon as the dog saw me get near the daughter, went full DEFCON 1 security mode and turned my ass into a rag doll. And after learning a new sympathy for my own dog's chew toys, and getting up and realizing I couldn't use my leg that he had just used as a chew bone, I was rushed to the emergency room, where the doctor then informed me that I wasn't going to be able to walk for a couple days, and then my boss realized he was going to have to take pictures of my naked ass, thigh, and peek of my balls for insurance purposes.
Put a finger down if when you were little, your family decided to move into a new house, but your great-grandma urged your mom not to buy this house because someone had died there, and she said it was haunted, but your mom's not superstitious, so you moved into the house anyways, and everything was fine for a while until weird stuff started to happen, like you weren't able to keep a candle lit in your bedroom, and the fact that every night, when my mom thought me and my little brother had gotten out of bed and ran down the hallway because she heard our feet on the wood floors, we were both still fast asleep on our bed, so it wasn't us. And there were random cold spots in the house, and just weird things started to happen. And around the same time, you developed an imaginary friend named Carla, and you thought that was just totally normal. Your family thought it was normal. You would lay underneath your bed every single day and play with your imaginary friend named Carla. You do dress up and all the other little kid things, and everything was fine. And then your mom was like, I should do some research into, what our great grandma was saying. And so she did, and she found out that in fact, there had been a little girl 60 years earlier who had been trampled by a horse in the backyard, and her name was in fact Carla. And so your very first friend was actually a ghost.
Put a finger down if in your sophomore year of high school your basement was getting remodeled, therefore you had a plumber over and he was cutting into the pipes and redoing the plumbing. So your dad was like, gee, listen, don't flush the toilet because there's a literal gaping hole in the pipe. I say, okay, daddy. So then I go and I eat dinner, and then I realize, after I digest, I gotta take a huge dookie. So I go in the bathroom and I pull down my pants and I'm going poopy. I get distracted by a YouTube video and I'm watching it. I pull up my pants, I close the toilet, I'm like, what am I forgetting to do? Because I have crippling fucking ADHD. I flushed the fucking toilet, and within 0.5 seconds after I hear from my basement, from the vent, the sound of grown men going, there's shit everywhere. And then your dad comes upstairs and tells you have to go outside and apologize to the plumber man who's literally in your backyard hosing himself free of all of your fecal matter, which he was covered in. Then you go downstairs and apologize to him, and you were crying because you were so upset and so embarrassed, and he says, what did you eat for dinner?
Put a finger down if you've ever went to the doctor and had to ask your doctor to create a laminated note that you would keep next to your ID and your wallet just in case you decide to go out with your friends and the police decide to stop you. If they were to ask you to comply with their physical demands, you would show them the note because the note says your doctor's information and the fact that you are indeed diagnosed with a physical disability that does not allow you to comply with such orders. And so you carry it everywhere, but you're still scared that you might not make it home one day.
Put a finger down if your boyfriend let you borrow his laptop when he went to work so that you could do schoolwork because your charger was broken. So you're sitting on your roommate's bed and you're telling her how you're not going to go through his iMessages because you trust him, and she's like so proud of you. So then you type something in the web browser search bar and all these weird ads keep popping up for like hot girls and stuff. So you and your roommate start laughing. You're like, LOL, like this is gonna be so funny. Like, let's see what kind of porn he watches. So you're like planning on making fun of him if he watches some like weird shit. So then you click on the first link and the website says it was shut down by the FBI. And then you remember when you watch a Netflix documentary on Backpages, which is what the website was, that was shut down for child trafficking. So then your roommate's like, what is it? Some weird shit, because you're not laughing. And you're like, I don't think this is funny. So then you start clicking on all the links, and it's like Craigslist and other websites. And then you and your roommate just like look through his whole computer for 4 hours, and you realize that he's been buying prostitutes on the internet for your entire relationship. It's just 2.5 years later, and you and your roommate are just processing how you guys like had no idea that he's just been buying bitches on the internet.
Put a finger down if your friend transferred you money on Venmo, but you had never used it before, so you didn't know that you could see other people's transactions. So you started searching just because you were curious, and you saw that some girl transferred your boyfriend at the time money at 2:30 in the morning and then again at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you were like, that's really shady. So you asked him about it, and he gave you a valid excuse. So then you were like, oh, okay, that makes sense, and then you didn't think anything of it, but then he hid the transactions from you, and you were like, wait a minute, if you didn't do anything wrong, then why are you hiding the transactions from me? So then he told you that he ended up having sex with that girl that night, but that he stopped in the middle because he was thinking of you and he didn't finish, so it didn't count. And then you guys got in a really big fight about it, but you told him that you could work it out. It was just going to take some time to regain your trust. And then he started gaslighting you and telling you that if you didn't trust him, that the relationship was never going to work and you needed to just get over it. So you ended up staying with him anyways, and he ended up just continuing to sleep with other girls and do drugs behind your back.
Put a finger down if one time when you were in high school you were on your period, so you used a tampon, and then you kept switching the tampon out, and then one time you went to go switch the tampon out and you were like, that's weird, I can't find my tampon. I guess I didn't have one in. So you put another tampon in, and then you had 2 tampons, one up pushed really high, and you just like kept switching out the bottom one, not knowing that there was a second one in there. And then a whole month went by, another period, same thing, kept switching out the bottom one, you didn't know there was a top one. And then you like things started going weird, so you told your mom about it, and she was like, sounds like you have a tampon stuck inside of you. And you're like, that's weird, no, not possible. And then she was like, yeah, let's go to the ER. So you went to the ER, and they pulled out a 7-week-old tampon that was stuck up there really high. And then the story didn't stop there, because then a random girl at school started this whole rumor that actually what happened is that you had sex with the tampon in and it pushed it up really high, and then you had to have surgery to get it removed. So put a finger down if that happened to you.